Добрый вечер, дорогие друзья. Сегодняшняя программа у нас состоится на английском языке. У нас в гостях IZZY. IZZY является тем, что называется Grassroots Operations Manager. Работает он с Инной Верниковой, молодой женщиной, нашей республиканкой, которая идет, ранает в наш горсовет города Нью-Йорка. Это очень ответственный пост. Бюджет Нью-Йорка гигантский. Он больше, чем бюджет половины, наверное, стран мира, если не больше. Я пригласил Иззи для того, чтобы он рассказал о компании раз. Во-вторых, я хочу, чтобы вы послушали на английском языке его объяснение. Я думаю, что у многих из вас дети и внуки примерно его возраста, примерно возраста Иззи. И чтобы они поняли наши аргументы. Многие жалуются, что у них нет связи с детьми, что дети не хотят обсуждать эти вещи. Каким-то образом я бы хотел, я надеюсь, что у нас получится совершенно блистательное интервью, и просто они услышат мнение человека, который примерно одного с ними возраста, близко к этому, молодой человек, но у него есть своя перспектива, за которую он готов бороться до последнего. Izzy, I said only good things about you in Russian.
I hope so.
You shouldn't be worried
really
about
good.
it. So let's do as agreed. So we discussed our plan. We have a game plan. Friends,
Yes.
we're going to speak English. Please stay with us. And please tolerate my Russian English and Izzy's temperament, because he's a very hot-headed young man. I was very impressed by his directness and his, what's the word? I'll remember it. I'll use it.
Aggression?
No, candor.
Oh, candor.
His candor.
Okay.
That's the word I was looking
Thank
for.
you.
So, Izzy.
Yes.
A few words about yourself. What you do, how you came to do that, and what's the way forward?
Okay, so my name is Izzy Weiss. My Hebrew name is Yisrael Weiss. I grew up in Brooklyn, actually, in the Seagate section of Brooklyn. So I'm very familiar with the Coney Island area, with the Russian community. I have 4 siblings, my parents, and I grew up in this area, in this neighborhood. I went to schools, yeshivas in Midwood. Went to school, and then after I went into a couple of different lines of work, eventually got married, have a beautiful son. He's 3 years old. He's the light of my life. That's part of the reason why I got into where I am currently. I currently run a store in Midwood on Coney Island Avenue called the Hat Box. It's a very well-known store within the community, within the Orthodox community. And that's essentially what I do currently. As far as how I got involved with Ina, Ina, I've known for quite a few years. We met basically through mutual friends. She impressed me with the way that she went about things, that if she decided she wanted to do something, nothing was going to stop her. And when she approached me, I'd say probably about a year ago, and said, "Hey, what do you think of me running for city council?" My first thought was, are you nuts? Like that is, it's so tough to get into that foray and deal with the kind of things that are going on currently politically.
It's a snake pit, literally.
It's terrible. It's so bad, and it just keeps getting worse. And I was thinking, why would you want to do this? You are a successful attorney. You've built a very successful practice here in New York and in Florida. You're living life. You're enjoying yourself. Why do this? And she broke down the reasons why she wanted to do it, and I was instantly on board. I would have supported her regardless, but when she gave me the reasoning, it aligned completely with what I believe is the right way of life. And here we are. Literally,
give us a couple of examples what you heard from her, if you can.
So, very simply put, there's this notion that the country has a very big issue with the police. Now, most people want safe streets. They want to know that when they lock their doors at night, that they're safe. They don't have to worry about people breaking in. And if, God forbid, someone breaks in, they're protected to a degree. So the concept of defund the police is an issue that is extremely, extremely serious with her, as it is with me. And I mean, I would love to refund them, and not even refund them. I would take that stimulus money that's being wasted and throw it at them to give them the proper tools in order to protect
double
us.
bonus, double time overpay, repay.
All of it. I'd rather my taxes, all that tax money that goes to God knows what, we have no idea where it goes. I would love to take that money and show my appreciation to our fantastic police force and law enforcement for doing the job that they do under the current constraints that they have. They're so handcuffed, pun intended, that they can't even do their job. And I mean, every time I see, almost every time I see, not if it's a police officer that pulls me over, I'm not going to tell him thank you. But most of the time when I bump into a police officer in the street, I make sure to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work that you do.
I just want to reiterate for the people who say kind of taken aback that you didn't mention any high calling or some, revelation from above. The support of the police is very important to the core, for the core matters of American life. We are here to love the country, and we are here to do our own business as best we can. And this is something that current situation doesn't let us do. We want to love our country. We cannot show our flag. We cannot show our cap outside. And we want to go about our business, but people say, no, you have to follow this rule and that rule, and those rules have nothing to do even with the environmental protection. Those rules have to do with bowing to the new overlords that they install. Every day they install too many empty, hollow idols all over the country. They remove what they call idols, who were actually heroes, who are actually people who did something in life. And they have someone who just revealed that they have like 5 homes, this woman, who's in the head of this Black Lives Matter. And they now turn, today is the day of George Floyd's 1 year after George Floyd was lost his life. I call it this way. He lost his life in a very unfortunate incident. He was a person who was pursuing a suicide by a cop, basically, judging by his behavior. And there is a video. I mean, he was not there. There's just the conspicuous, when people are jumping at cops seeking death. There was quite a few cases like this recently. But this man was totally irresponsible towards his own life and the life of the others, including his family, who got 27 million from the city of Minneapolis. And the family was totally excommunicado from his life altogether. He was hanging out with whole different people, if you call them so. So they're making a hero out of him. And all of a sudden, George Washington is not a hero. And James Madison's not a hero. And Abraham Lincoln's not a hero. And Christopher Columbus is not a hero. So that's something that we cannot stand. And this is why we want law. And this is why we want order.
Right. They're trying to rewrite history, essentially. They're trying to portray many of these leaders as evil and terrible, when in reality, many of these leaders, and I say many because I cannot speak for all, but a good majority of these leaders helped build this amazing country that both you and myself are able to live freely. We have this amazing thing called the Constitution. We live in a true democracy. Where else can you call your president a name and not get burned at the stake? You could freely curse at him. In fact, you could, prior to former President Trump being knocked off of all the social media platforms, you literally saw people cursing him out, telling him to drop dead, and there was no blowback. Now,
and they have Xi Jinping there, and they have Khomeini there, and they have every bad guy in the book, recognized, officially certified bad guy. On Facebook, on Twitter, nobody got disconnected from there, forbidden, banned, whatnot. That's a shame. This says so much about this country's state of mind, people who are running those things. But still, I believe that this is media's fault in larger part than it is because you live big city, you live New York, you go to, ski and like Camelback Mountains. I don't ski, but I was there. There was not too much.
You don't ski?
No, I don't.
You don't strike me as a skier.
No, I should not. I didn't even try to strike as a
You got
skier.
2 left feet. It's okay. I'd probably be worse off.
No, I hide my feet under the chair when I'm in public.
When you're in public.
Yeah, but what I want to say that you go outside of the megapolis of any megapolis, and you see so much support for America. You see so much support for Donald Trump. You go to places like Garrison Beach here in New York. Everybody seems to be a supporter, and I even had a little kind of online skirmish with the company called Shutterstock. Just a little anecdote, yeah. Because I was traversing the Brooklyn, just looking for nice place for new impressions, for new sites, and we ended up. We go to Garrison Beach area quite often with my wife. We love the park. We hate the mosquitoes, but cost benefit analysis. A lot of different life there. And there was a house, very neat house with a flag saying Trump Pence 2020. It was before the election last year summer. So I took a picture. It was a lovely picture, like a eye candy of a picture. So I said, why not? I'll put it on Shutterstock and see if someone bites. If because stock pictures, elections are coming. Maybe somebody would pay $1. Maybe someone else would pay $1 just to test the system. My daughter said you better go and collect bottles and expect them.
You're a better chance. Yeah,
pick up the bottles from people's bins, recycling bins. So Shutterstock went into whole discussion with me. We had exchange. They said you cannot put this picture up. I said why? There's no people. I don't need any permissions. They said no. There's a brand name on it, without naming it. I said which brand name? There are 2 names. It's Trump Pence 2020. They're doing it for our money, for taxpayers' money, the whole thing. Why would I not be allowed? I understood already where they're going with it, and it ended up when I said, listen. Here's a picture of Times Square. There's like 500,000, sorry.
Different things.
Different types, logotypes, different brand names, different whatever. Do you have the permission for every one of them? Is it possible for anybody? Crickets. It was over. No, we won't put it. We won't put it on. But the thing is that they have such a sophisticated system of recognition over there. You will not believe it. An algorithm. I put a picture of Grand Canal I took in Venice, and there was like 500 gondoliers, and they were far, like fly size.
Right.
And they said there is a portrait of a real person there, and I was looking at it for 2 hours. I couldn't find this person to blur him out, just for the sake of the argument. I found one person somewhere like a mile away who turned his profile. You can clearly identify a person.
Unbelievable.
This is what they can do today.
Right.
So back to our story. So you are a young man. I wouldn't publicize your age, but I told somebody already. And Ina is here. People will ask her. I don't think she'll hold back. But what's the reaction of you to your peers, to people of the same age, that you see so opinionated, like 180 degrees opinion from yours, who's thinking you? How do you deal with that? People of your age who have 180 degrees difference of opinion with you.
That's a great question, because what we've noticed, especially since the 2016 election, is that friendships were lost, families were literally destroyed over political positions. I wouldn't say I lost many friends over that election, because most of my friends and I align in terms of from a mentality standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint. But when I engage somebody and encounter somebody that has, I'm going to use the word progressive values, not even liberal values, I'm flummoxed. I'm like, my mind is blown how they try to justify some of these things. For instance, we were talking about the police, right? The police are an issue, the police. Sure. And they start trying to give me statistics about how many people are being killed and this and that. And when I ask them to provide me with actual numbers and statistical data, they literally can't provide me with anything. It's anecdotal. It's talking points. There's nothing of substance. And that's where I sort of cut the conversation off. Because if you can't present any type of evidentiary literature,
Facts.
something to prove your point, right, then what are we doing here? We're literally wasting time. You're not going to change my mind. I'm obviously not going to change your mind. Will I voice my opinion? Am I afraid? No. And that's the beautiful thing. Again, I revert back to our beautiful country, is that we have this amazing thing in the Constitution called freedom of speech. So I can say whatever I want, however I want, and if I feel a certain way, not embarrassed to say it, which also circles back to Ina and why I'm working with Ina. She is not afraid to open her mouth. And I'm going to give you an amazing example, actually, Yura.
Yeah, go ahead.
2 weeks ago, we were outside of a store in Brooklyn, a supermarket, very nice people there who were very gracious to us. We're standing out there, and I'm on a microphone, and I'm basically yelling out, vote Republican, vote red November 2nd. It turns out there was a politician that was in the area, no name is mentioned, who was a Democrat. And I was announcing before I saw him, you cannot vote Democrat. If you vote Democrat, you're voting the party of Bill de Blasio. And when I saw him, I looked at Ina and I said, maybe I should slow down and not yell that out while he's standing here, just to be respectful. She looked me straight in the eye and said, I don't care. Speak your mind. I already had respect for her, but that there, it solidified what I already knew, that she is a fighter and she's going to fight for this city, and she doesn't give a crap, a damn who's in front of her. And that's what we need, people my age and older and younger, to stand up and open their mouth.
Ina's watching. Ina, how was he? He's fantastic. I think he's a great asset to our victory in November. You're a big part of it already. But what's the reception of the community? How people kind of shy a little bit from such a aggressive defense of American values?
Let me tell you something, Yura. The most beautiful thing about this campaign and this movement, I'm calling it a movement because it is a youthful movement, because we haven't seen the likes of a candidate like Ina in forever. The last candidate I could think of in this area that ran as a Republican that had such fire and still has that fire is David Starobin, somebody who was unafraid to open their mouth and talk about the real issues. When we're standing in Midwood, when we're in Sheepshead Bay, we try to engage people. Hey, come over, say hi, Ina, Vernikov, City Council. Okay. They seem interested, but then we mention Republican. Now, whether she says it in Russian or in English, it's an immediate turnaround. The people will turn around, come to you and say, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll sign whatever you want. I'm fed up with what's going on. I'm fed up with this Democrat garbage. I'm fed up with what they're doing to our once beautiful city. I'm sure you remember the David Dinkins era. Which
I know about it. I wasn't here then, but I read about it. I studied it. Yes.
Right. So David Dinkins was here in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's when the Crown Heights riots happened. And unfortunately, Yankel Rosenbaum, Oliver Sholem, was stabbed to death by, turns out, a two-time murderer, Lemrick Nelson, who killed him brutally. The mayor at the time basically said, let them riot. For 3 days, there were riots in the streets. Destruction, businesses, stuff that we've seen recently with what happened with the BLM stuff and Antifa stuff out in Portland and Minneapolis and so on, even in New York. He was such a bad mayor that the people felt compelled to vote for a Republican and brought the great Rudy Giuliani into this city. And what did Rudy do for this city? He cleaned it up completely. The city was cleaned up. We had to endure such a horrible mayor and horrible policies that we had to bring somebody in to clean up the mess. We're at that point. We're there with Bill de Blasio. Look what he's doing to our city. He's created division amongst everybody. Everyone unanimously hates him, which blows my mind because in the last election, he had over 65% of the vote. How do you explain 65% of people voting for a guy that nobody likes at all?
Yeah.
It's mind blowing.
He's a man who tries very successfully to sow the discord, but what he does even more successfully, he unites people in their hatred of him. That's where he's a big uniter, because you ask him, everybody says he sucks, except for some teachers union members and other unions members that he feeds hoping to to keep him in power, to help him stay in power. Because those people, Nadler, Schumer, what have they done for the Jewish people, frankly, lately?
Which is funny. It's very funny you mentioned Schumer. Schumer is a great. Now I'd like to mention the great former Assemblyman Dov Heikind, who is, I consider, a mentor, an unbelievable person, who has fought for the Jewish people for years, for a half a century longer. The man has fought countless. The amount of time he's invested and put into helping the Jewish people. He likes to make the joke about Schumer. Schumer says, what's that in Hebrew? Shomer, which is to watch over. Mm-hmm. Where's he watching? Is he in Barbados? He's not here. You don't hear him saying anything about what's going on to Jews having their faces kicked in the streets. You hear nothing. Nadler is also a waste of space. What does he do? What has he done? Nothing. They don't care about these issues because their constituency doesn't, or at least a part of their constituency doesn't. They pander to voters. They don't think this is a big enough issue. And it totally amazes me how these people stay relevant.
Still not a word about situation in Israel. Still not a word in support of Israel. To me, you know what was eye-opening? There was a video a couple of months ago. He was standing on the sidewalk with his little lectern, with his very little bodyguards, with very little guns, all equipped. And he was about to teach, the passersby how to live lives, green and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So his crazy ideas, as everybody sees, they're crazy. Everybody sees that he wants to be in the spotlight. He has no good reason, so he has to invent reasons to be in the spotlight. And some woman comes with 2 shopping bags in her hands, a white woman, probably in her 70s, but stout and big woman.
Okay.
And very capable, like big frame. And she starts yelling at him. What are you doing here? And she was berating. You are an
This is
empty
Nadler
spot.
or Schumer?
No, Schumer. Did I say Nadler?
Okay.
No, Schumer. Schumer was standing there with his little Ben Franklin glasses, looking at the lectern. Not at her. He couldn't make himself raise his eyes at her. And she was berating him, saying, "You're nothing. You're just ruining the city. You do not represent people who put you in the place." And she was saying all the right arguments. I mean, not just like a conversation, very rude. She was kind of borderline rude, but in telling the truth. Just didn't pick the language very carefully.
Right.
No cursing. But and they were all standing. They didn't know what to do. This is the reality meets, the fiction. Schumer is a fiction. It's like a figment, unfortunately, very stinky figment. But he's something that he has no weapon. He has no protection against the truth. And he does not meet the truth. He's talking and he's teaching and he's talking to his Democrats, and Nancy Pelosi, of course, won't tell him anything, but how to stay in power, what to do to stay in power. They are power hungry. They want nothing but power for themselves. That's why they're doing it to the city. This whole thing with the hotels, with the homeless, in a country that puts the things on Mars. And then people in space, can figure out that they can talk to people, they can sort them. All the organizations are in place. People thought about it long and hard. It's just that final piece is not there. It's like with the coronavirus, same thing. Nobody's saying there was no disease, but why Javits was empty? Why Comfort, the hospital, the boat was empty? Why were they empty? Completely. They built $25 million in Industry City in the Navy Yard in Brooklyn. They took one of the buildings, made a hospital there. I remember the price, $25 million. Right. Not a single person showed up. Not a single person was brought there. Not necessarily with COVID. We have other diseases.
Right.
It was empty, and this is such a mismanagement on behalf of Cuomo, on behalf of de Blasio, and the argumentation, what they say, what they put forward as an explanation is laughable. Nobody's holding them to the account. This is what our voters should do.
What do all of these clowns have in common? Guess what, Yura? They're all Democrats. All Democrats. Look at Florida. Look at Ron DeSantis. The people down there respect him. They love him. Floridians love that man. Look at Ted Cruz out in Texas. People love that man. In New York, who loves a guy like Andrew Cuomo, who killed thousands of people with his awful, awful rules with regard to coronavirus, sending sick older people back into these nursing homes? He killed thousands of people.
In
Bill de
using
Blasio.
his job, in losing their jobs for personal in enrichment, as Cuomo
Right.
does, and those people, imagine they would go say, maybe they shouldn't be mentioned even in the same sentence. Ed Koch, I met the man personally. Ed Koch was smart enough to be hired. I know that this is a ritual. You know, you go out of profession, you have all the connection, you have your Rolodex, as they used to say. Now people maybe do not know what Rolodex is.
I know what a Rolodex is. I'm not that young.
You're not using Rolodex, I hope.
No, I use my phone. I don't
It's
use
an
a
address book, like American,
Right.
very sophisticated, genius invention. Anyway, so they have the Rolodex, so they get hired to become lobbyists for companies. They didn't want to become lobbyists even. De Blasio couldn't be a lobbyist. He's not smart enough for this. You have to use your cycle, so to speak, a little bit. Your brain power, whatever you have. And same thing with Cuomo. Me, lobbyist, you know who my daddy was? My daddy was Mario Cuomo. There's a bridge after this. This is the whole thing that he has not. First time I tried to my impression. I think it came out good. I heard it too many times. But that's the saying with them. And he got $5 million for what? He wrote a book which is total invention of his imagination.
Crap.
As he dealt with the virus, he lost this game.
Can I ask you a question, Yura?
Sure.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be a really amazing thing for all that money that he profited off killing all those people? Wouldn't it be great if that money was donated to those families? How many of those families couldn't afford to bury their loved ones? How many of them? How many had to pay for funerals? Maybe they should take the money that Cuomo made off of other people's backs and put it towards that. Would it happen? No. Of course,
He's
it's not
not
going
the
to
kind
happen.
of man who would donate
No.
the money. He was asked, he said, I donated 1/3 of it, and the rest I put in a trust fund for my kids, because
Because they don't have enough money. Because they don't have enough.
They don't have
cash.
enough money, and he's managing their money until they're
Right.
like 66.
Exactly.
That's
It's true and it's sad. Well, Social Security won't be available to them at that point anyway, because that'll be totally and completely gone.
How
which is a
they
separate
expect
issue.
people to buy all this crap that they spew? It's just unbelievable. And people, you know, the media, the press is doing everything they can. They bend over backwards to make people, to pretend that people, yeah, we understand. We know what you mean. Yeah, we know if we were you, we would do the same thing, probably. But this is against the moral of this country, and it's immoral to be in such a high position and be such an opportunist. Again, I mean, to me, opportunist is a good
Literally.
word, but this
Right.
is, it's like almost traitorous. It
is treacherous.
Treacherous, and it's embezzlement de facto.
Yeah.
So you're in position and you're behaving like this, so you cannot. You should be no. You shouldn't be allowed to take any public position whatsoever after doing things like this. But there's no political will to remove them in any other way rather than vote them out. And again,
That's it. You said the right words. It's simple. I was about to say, vote them out, which gives us an opportunity, which leads me, back to what we're hearing on the streets with Ina, is that people are just fed up. They're fed up with what's going on in the city. They're fed up with every single day. I'm a huge fan of the New York Post. I like them.
Yeah.
They do great articles, which I also wanted to discuss with regard to Ina. They put out a lot of truthful stuff. They, most of the time it's good stuff, good reporting.
Michael Goodwin alone.
Yeah, he's always on point.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Why is it that every single day when I update the widget I have on my phone and I click on it, in the metro section, 3 people shot, 4 people dead, 20 people shot, shooting at a party, this every damn day we have to see this crap in our city? Why? Why do we see this? Why? Because we continue to put people in power that don't want to protect this city. They want to get fat off of our taxpayer dollars. That's basically what they're here for. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about themselves.
They don't care about the country even. Listen, the
Constitution is toilet paper to them. They want to rewrite it. They want to burn it down. They don't want it to stand for something. They complain. They cry about this nation. They cry about this country. You know what? What's great about it? My grandfather, God rest his soul, who I'm named after, he was born in Hungary. He went through the Holocaust. He had a wife and 3 children, including twin daughters. They were gassed. They were murdered. He had to restart his family. My grandmother, rest her soul, she had 10 siblings, her parents, and other than 4 of her siblings and herself, they were all murdered in the concentration camps. They lived pretty well where they were until the Nazis took over and started killing them. And then they came to this country. And what did this country offer them? The freedom to put a kippah on their head, the freedom to walk the streets. So how do these people today, how do these, excuse my French, idiots complain about everyday value? How do you complain about the world you're living in? You don't have to worry about walking the streets. You don't have to worry about these things, but yet they find a way to complain about everything, and instead of doing something positive about it.
It's about this losing strategy, or losing tactics. When you tell your enemies, quote unquote, until certain point, it's right. In quotes, what has to be done to you to get you scared, to get you frightened, to get you to retreat, to get you quit your values. You telling it to them that you're afraid to walk the street. You just mention it somewhere in passing, and they come after you, and they really today. You walk the streets in fear. Indeed, after all those anti-Semitic attacks in our Brooklyn, the borough of Brooklyn, and in Manhattan,
in the city,
nothing happened in Queens, to my best knowledge. In Williamsburg, Williamsburg is Brooklyn, right?
Right, Williamsburg is Brooklyn, but Williamsburg had its own issues about a year ago, pre-COVID, and then during. There were anti-Semitic attacks then, not like there are now, because now it's a slightly different agenda.
The Palestinians this time were kind of beating the drum.
They were the culprits. They absolutely were the culprits. And the crazy thing is that there was a young man named Joseph Borgen, 29-year-old, wearing a kippah. He was identified as a Jew. He wasn't identified as an Israeli or a Zionist, which I think is the biggest joke. How people say there is a difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. So my question is always to them, if the guy's wearing a yarmulke, how can you tell that he's wearing an Israeli flag on his back or he has a Star of David necklace? No, you beat him up because he's a Jew. So don't try to mix the two up. They are together. If you hate Israelis, you hate Jews, you hate Israelis.
It's a fundraising trick for them. They want to pick some money, from people who cannot tell the difference, or they cannot. I mean, not the difference, but they do not know enough about the subject, and they are gullible enough to let them talk about poor Palestinians who live better than any Arabs in the area. And if they wanted to, they would live absolutely. If they are. Not dissimilar to what we have here in this country when you have the poorest people in the districts run by Democrats, when you have the most crime in the places run by Democrats. You look at Chicago South Side, where my daughter, she doesn't live in South Side.
I was about to say she lives in the South Side?
No, she lives in the Ukrainian village. It's quiet, it's Ukrainian and American flags everywhere. Very kind of peaceful there, and nice, and yappies, and gentrification, nobody objecting, and beautiful little homes. So, but that's the fact, they totally put this plantation in place for the black people and for Hispanics, people from South America, where they stay, more than slaves, basically. They are forced to vote Democrat because they think that Republicans would take everything from them, and they would make them do things they wouldn't want to do, and they will ship them back home and stuff like that. And they would give them dirty water and dirty air and all the stories. And surprisingly, a lot of people outside of our megapolises, so to speak, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, they support Republicans. But I mean, talking about the Mexicans, say they're Catholic, they don't like a lot of things that the
Right.
Democrats want to make them believe. But in the cities, they live in this slavery, modern slavery, and the Democrats refuse to take blame for it.
No, they blame Republicans. They claim that it's the Republicans that are causing all this. When in reality, you look at the cities that are run into the ground. You look at places. You look at Minnesota. I mean, who's running Minnesota? Look at Michigan. Look at these. These are Democrat-run states. They don't even have clean water. This is not run by Republicans. Let's look at some. You can look at robust states that are run by Republicans, that are successful. It's ironic that they cry about how things are terrible, but yet they're the ones in power and they don't have the ability to change things. It's interesting you mentioned before about the assaults, the anti-Semitic assaults created and done by the Palestinians in this area. There was I don't know if you had a chance to read the article in the New York Post. I'm sure that you did. Basically, there was a principal at a public school in Sunset Park here in Brooklyn who sent an email out to a bunch of her teachers. And that link in that email basically said a bunch of free Palestine stuff. It trashed
She's not
Israel.
a Palestinian herself, right?
No, she is not a Palestinian. She's not a Palestinian,
She's a
but
Latina.
she sent out this email. Yes, she sent out this email to all the teachers, all of them, basically saying that they should share this in their curriculum, this free Palestine stuff, as well as articles by Rashida Tlaib, a noted anti-Semite, anti-Zionist. And she wanted to push this narrative, which, as we all know, is completely illegal. So it turns out one of these teachers, who is a Jewish woman, was extremely scared. And she was put in touch with Ina. Now, Ina is running a campaign. She's not running it, but she is part of a big campaign, and she's dealing with a million things. She has her own law practice. She has 1,000 things she has to juggle. When this issue came to her, she told both me and David Starobin, the campaign manager, guys, and this was at 12:30 at night. She said, I am going to work on this. I'm going to focus on this issue, and I'm going to tackle it, and I'm going to make sure something gets done. We kept our mouths shut. We said, whatever you say, do what you got to do. By the morning, she had a letter drafted that she sent to the Department of Education and the UFT, basically stating this woman, under no circumstance legally, is allowed to espouse any political views and cannot use Department of Education resources to do so. Yura, within 12 hours, there was a response from the chancellor, a tweet saying this principal must apologize. In 12 hours. Can I ask you a question? There are politicians out there that talk and talk and talk, and all they do is talk. It's hot air. They don't get nothing done. Ina's not even in office yet. And I say yet because she will be on November 2nd. Ina got this done on her own while juggling all these other things. That should tell everybody that when she puts her mind to something, when she is afforded the ability to do more, she's going to do more. And she's going to protect the city and protect the people that are inside the city.
Listen, we're given so many examples recently how much a single person can do in this country and everywhere in the world, actually. But everybody's looking at the United States at the moment. And there's no exaggeration. A lot of people come to my channel, especially in the morning where it's not that late in Russia. But even at that time, there are people who are watching, especially when we speak in Russian here. Of course, English is not available to a lot of good people there. And they come and they listen, and they're all very concerned about what's going on here. Very small part of those people comes as like bots and and trolls. Most of them are very interested and very compassionate and very puzzled, frankly, by what's going on here. I'm saying one person in Russia, they have some people who resist authorities, Putin's klepto-fascist, it's called the system in Russia these days. So, but there's like 1.5 persons there. We have such an array of strong people, and a good example of Donald John Trump as a president, late Rush Limbaugh. Single man, one solitary man, went out and he fought, and he became the most popular man in talk radio, and enjoyed the status for a very, very, very long time. Unfortunately,
He was the
cancer
king.
has gotten to him. Everybody was listening to him. I enjoyed it so much when he was on his program, Rush Limbaugh show, and people are calling the truck drivers. You cannot find an academic, a teacher who would speak like that, as those drivers used to speak, who were let on the air to talk about certain things, sometimes to vent, sometimes to complain, sometimes trying to win a free iPhone, as he so generously offered so many times. And there were great moments I enjoyed that when parents, parents, you're a parent yourself, sometimes they kind of coach their kids. Call this program, talk to him. Maybe he'll be nice, but just don't lie. Be honest. And people call, and those tiny kids were talking about Russia's books that they read, or they wanted to get a book. And he was so kind and courteous to them, giving them great example with his own life. And you look at President Trump, how polite he was with people. Remember this choir? I think it was from Israel, from disabled people, children,
yes,
who
he
sang
came and
for
he
him.
hugged them. Yes,
you cannot doubt this man's. Obama never did anything like that. Before that, they spread about the rumor about Donald Trump. Maybe he was a germaphobe indeed. I don't know, but you wouldn't find a trace of it, a smidgen of it, when he went for
He was the most transparent president we've ever had. Transparent indeed. He let it all hang out. Like there was he didn't have to hide behind who he was. He didn't have to lie about who he was. He was exactly who he was, and he did some great things for this country, which ironically people were yelling and screaming about what he did with Israel, moving the embassy, and how it's going to create this massive uproar in the Middle East and uncertainty and so on. And guess what? For 4 years, you didn't hear a peep out of Hamas. You didn't hear anything.
Yeah, and Abraham
Joe
Accord.
Biden's in office. How long is Joe Biden in office for? Immediately.
They got a big stick and they started poking the president of the United States with a stick. That's how it looks to the rest of the world. Look, everybody, he screws everything up. Whatever he touches, he couldn't even steal properly. He was speaking recently to this academy of the Coast Guard Academy, and he flopped the quote from the Ronald Reagan that Ronald Reagan used when he was a president, was on the same spot he used it with the cadets graduating, and he flopped it. He could not even make people understand what he meant. Couldn't complete the sentence. He's such a disgrace. Such a disgrace.
It is a disgrace, and we are the laughing stock of the world. In fact, when they talked about this ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, who brokered that deal? Not Joe Biden. It was Egypt. You don't hear any credit from Israel. From America. You don't hear anything about that because Netanyahu, frankly, knew we can't deal with these people. Can't deal with them. What's Biden going to get done? It's the party of Obama.
Listen, I read about the people who are in charge of Iraq and who are in charge of Israel, and these people, judging from their bios, they couldn't be in the government service. They couldn't have any clearance. I know a couple of things about clearance as an interpreter. And they couldn't get clearance, judging by the questions. If they were asked about, 20% of the questions I was asked when I was going for that, they wouldn't make it.
Answer.
They wouldn't make it. They didn't have a good answer. It's just the suspicious alone. One of the guys, has like a Mali. He's Irish-sounding name, but he's actually French Jew, and his father was Egyptian Jew. And nothing against the Jews, of course, but they were communists. They were communists, and they did more for Arab extremism in the Northern Africa than any all Arabs combined. The guy was like a commie who built the movement. Abu Mazen speaks.
Abu Mazen.
Yes, he speaks Russian. He studied in Russia. He was a Russian agent all his life. And he still is. Talk about influence. But I'm saying those people are the enemy within the gates. They are inside, and good thing that not much is happening, finally they couldn't stop Israel from answering the rockets from
Right.
Gaza. They couldn't
Right.
stop
They had to go
Israel
in.
doing it.
Nope.
I don't think that they played any part, unfortunately, the American government, and they are so tone deaf. They claim to be so worldly, and they claim to be so kind of promoting the agenda.
There's-
But the fact is, in Arab countries, nobody will ever shake a hand of a homosexual. You cannot have a homosexual
Shake?
in foreign
They
service.
would kill them.
No,
They
I'm
would
saying
throw
you
them off of
meet
the-
with someone
Yeah.
who serves in the foreign. I mean
Right.
the State Department. They just it's. I'm from Russia. I'm from Uzbekistan. I came from Tashkent. I'm basically a descendant of Ukrainian Jews who escaped Nazis, and my grandfather fought at World War II, and my grandmother she took the whole family, like 20 people, brought them
Wow.
on a train to Tashkent, where a lot of Jews escaped to during World War II, where when the husbands were fighting. In my case, so there, that's the story with me. So I know a thing or two about that. I grew up
Right.
in a Muslim country, an Islamic country, and as long as you're allowed to go about your business, and nobody cares, then nobody cares what you do, and that's the idea here. This is the law here. There, it's like if I want to, I can break it. There is no law. Still no law in Russia or in Uzbekistan or
Right.
wherever former Soviet Union is. There is nothing to appeal to. There's no there is a technical constitution, but
Right.
people voted for it and they don't understand. Look at our beautiful constitution. They say we have a right to free vacation. They say who's paying for it? Why is it free? Did you pay for it? No. How come is it free? It's free. Who's changing your bed sheets when you're there?
Right.
Who's serving you breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Who's kind of raking the sand on the beach? Is it done for free? Who's paying these people? People
Right.
have no idea about it. Free education,
No
free
clue.
education.
Who's paying
Do
for it?
teachers work for free? Same thing here. I ask people in New York. I ask people in Brooklyn. I say, how much are you paying for the school? They say, what kind of question is that? Nothing. We have a free school, public school. It's for free. What was the question? Don't you know that?
Yeah, public.
I say, yeah. You know that it costs about $28,000 a year per student in Brooklyn, New York? If you
Yeah.
were given about half of this money, would you be able to hire a number of teachers, like 4 teachers, who would meet with your child and teach your child at the speed of times 4 what they learn in school and the subjects they really need because they cannot count, they cannot read, they fail in simplest things. They would read not like my daughter came from school. I said, what are you studying in the English class? She said the lyrics of Eminem.
Seriously?
Yeah, I hike up my pants. I
Oh my
get
God,
out of
when was
bed.
this?
I say, I come to the school. The principal meets me with the bow tie. And I see, before that, I walk down the corridor. It's a school, a BART school, high school, early college. They used to be in Greenpoint. Then they moved to the city, to Houston
Right.
Street. And I come to him. I saw the corridor and say, why the whole school is plastered with vagina monologues played by students? What's the urgency? What's the rush? Then I go to the teacher.
Oh my God.
He didn't have a good answer.
How long ago was this? How long ago was this?
That was long ago.
It's got to be a long time because if you're quoting Eminem, this is probably back in
No,
the
but
day.
I studied in English class. I said, did you
Unbelievable.
mention I go to the English teacher. I say, did you mention to them Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain? The things I learned about America first.
Animal Farm.
Yeah, it was like I don't know, 9th grade.
That's great.
out of
Okay, so it's a little
12.
bit more advanced.
It was
Right.
yeah, but Animal Farm. No, I did not go there. Yeah, it was kind of. But yeah, I started slow with Mark Twain.
Right.
She said, "No, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to talk about those things. There are things that we cannot mention." But listen, you read the lyrics. There are words like N words and F word and this word and that word. The whole alphabet, super words, is in there. This you can say. I
Right.
was sitting like 3 days ago. I was sitting someplace, and there were a bunch of kids, mixed, big black and white, and there was relatively peaceful kids with the bicycles. Nobody was smoking. They were like 14, 15, 16 years old. They were calling each other Negroes, regardless of the color. That's the way people address, this population. It's a word. Words, sticks and stones can break your bones.
Right.
But
unfortunately, it's
the culture
you'll,
is too rough. It's becoming
right,
too
very
rough,
rough,
and it's fake rough. It's not the real rough.
right.
Because you still can go and get your Yoo-hoo carton to drink, and you can get your Coke to drink, and you get your burger, and you get your fries. But in the meantime, you try to look rough because this is tough, and because this is natural.
Culturally, so that also, I mean, culturally, it kind of goes with where the country is going, and the lack of proper education, and the lack of wanting to obtain a proper education. It just, again, it circles back to, I just used the word circle back. That's the, what's her name? The press lady.
Psaki.
From,
Jen
Psaki. I can't even pronounce her name. I still think Kayleigh McEnany because she was fantastic.
Simple,
and before her, remember Sarah Huckabee saying
they all were.
Fantastic.
Kellyanne Conway also.
Kellyanne, these people, the stuff that they had to endure, versus the softballs that are lobbed to this person, it's mind blowing. Like, and the fact that they were able to put in the time they did.
She's insulting. She's insulting your intelligence. As Al Pacino used to say. Don't insult my intelligence, Fredo. That's the thing with her. Listen, what can be done about the education? What do you see? What do you see as a parent, the young parent? How do you like your education, your child's education to be?
So here's the thing. My wife is a special education teacher. Actually, she obtained her undergrad in Queens College. She got her master's at Hunter, which is a very, very renowned school. My wife is a fantastic teacher. She's great with my son. She's great with her students. So as far as his education goes, that's one of the things in life that I know in my heart and in my mind that I'm completely at ease with, because she guides me and she guides him. So in that sense, I'm very comfortable currently where we are. In the big picture, I don't know. I don't know where it's going. And that leads back to this principle, trying to espouse a political view. Who knows what's going to happen down the line? We don't know. People are going to try to indoctrinate students. They're going to try to indoctrinate teachers.
I think even the religion-based education isn't safe today, because people want to jump on the bandwagon of they want to be, woke.
Right, woke is the word. Right.
Yeah, so they want to be kind of hip, and they just want to put those what they call this race, critical race,
critical race
CRT,
theory. Oh my God.
In Florida, DeSantis was very clear about it. He just forbade teaching it at schools.
That's an amazing thing. It's designed. Critical race theory is designed to say that all white people are racists. It couldn't be farther from the truth. It's the most racist, inherently racist thing out there. How twisted and corrupt is that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's so twisted. It's Goebbels' great twisted. It's like Stalin's way twisted, because everybody sees it, nobody's talking about it. I'll say a word about it. Because what they do, first, they accuse you of something, and you say, who, me? Me racist? No, I'm not a racist. While you're busy proving you're not a racist, and you cannot prove a negative, as you know. Right. And ask your favorite lawyer to explain it to you. If you don't know that, you cannot prove a negative. But meantime, they build the structural racism right into the American system. What they're doing, this CRT, this critical race theory, is structural racism. It's racism incorporated into companies, into educational system, into ethics, into our behavior, into our children's heads.
It makes them feel bad. It's as if to say, if you're judged based on either your heritage or the color of your skin, and there couldn't be anything more racist than that. That's stereotyping. That's like that. I can't think of anything more corrupt and twisted, and that does scare me for my son. I'm afraid later on, what are they going to try to, what type of curriculum are they going to try to instill? What are they going to try to teach him?
Yeah,
this worries me a ton. Which is, by the way, why so many people have migrated to Florida. Many New Yorkers have gotten up and said, to hell with de Blasio, to hell with Cuomo, to hell with this dump of a city. I'm going to a state that will respect me, that will give me the freedom to do as I please, where there's a governor that cares about the well-being of myself and my family. And that's why we've seen such a migration. Well, not us. I mean, we've had people leaving us because of that.
No, it's a common thing, but again, they're so obsessed with taxing, and this is a well-known American adage, that if you want something, less of something, you want people to smoke less, tax the cigarettes. Whatever you want to have less of, tax it. And if you want more of it, don't tax it. And we want more of so many good things, and they're taxed to death. And another thing that I wanted to say is, it's a common knowledge again, but we have to remember this thought that, we only get the problems we can understand is the problems we are designed to overcome. There are problems that we cannot understand with our mind. They come to what's called the unknown unknowns. So they're unknown, and we cannot do anything about it. But the things we understand as a problem, this is something we can and shall overcome.
Exactly.
That's if we don't. I'm repeating myself. I wanted to say something smart, like the third smart
and then you
thing
caught
in a
yourself,
row,
right?
and then I forgot. I told you
it's okay.
It happens, but it'll come to me. Maybe
I'm sure.
Few programs down the road, I will say, remember what I wanted to say. I want to say it now.
Well, that's the thing about these things. It's kind of like my mother's always said this. She's like, if you want to find something that you lost, don't look for it, kind of a thing. So I never got it. And I'm like, what? That makes literally no sense. But it somewhat makes some type of sense.
No, absolutely.
Look, sorry, that's my phone. I appreciate, first of all, I didn't get a chance to tell you this in the beginning of the program, that I watched your first interview with Ina, and I watched your interview with Dove, and I genuinely appreciate what you bring to the table. And I know that you have many viewers all over the world. There needs to be more people watching you, not just because you're interviewing people like me, but you're giving a voice to sanity. Dare I say the word sanity? I can't believe I have to even say that, but people with the freedom to think and the freedom to speak, you're giving me a platform and countless other people to do so. So thank you for putting yourself out there and allowing us to speak our mind and to speak truths to power, essentially, especially with the current government in place.
So thank you for that. So very much for coming over, and what your words were very important. And I wanted to see, for our viewers to see, some of them are older than you and even myself sometimes, and they lament the state of the youth in this country, and they say that we lost the youth. And I want this video to be spread, and to see you talk, to hear you talk, and to hear the things that you say, and understand that the fight goes on. And it never stopped, actually, never for a second. The best years of this country, the fight for the good never stopped. And it never stopped. It cannot stop. And we are not the ones who should be witnessing the end of it. It shouldn't happen on our watch.
We still there is still a movement. There is still a movement going, and we need more people to jump on this train. We need more of the youngsters to open their eyes and to read and not to be afraid. This wokeism stuff. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Don't be afraid to read. Don't be afraid to educate yourself. Don't let these people try to indoctrinate you with these false ideas and false hopes. We're here to stay, and we're going to continue to grow.
We have no choice but to win. IZZY, thank you so very much. I think it was very nice evening. Over and out, as my friend Captain Euro says. Over and out. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Euro. Take care.
Take care.